Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm just doing a quick podcast to talk about the Demon Emperor entry that I'm working on. Deathblade is finishing up the chapters of Legends of Ogre Gate, and it's ending with a big final battle between the Demon Emperor and Sunan and Bao and their people. And so I wanted to stat the Demon Emperor and give him a character entry with powers and abilities like a normal NPC, and include that on the blog as an extra for when it's released. And so I've been spending this week just kind of thinking about it. It's not something that I've given any thought to the entirety of the time that I've been working on Ogre Gate, and he's just sort of been a blank space mechanically. I just sort of vaguely knew this guy was powerful. He comes from something in Gamandria, which in the Sartorius books has specific abilities associated with it, but in terms of how he's meant to be inside Chishien, there's not really anything concrete that I had in mind. So number one, I thought about it a little bit, and then I needed to read the final chapters that Deathblade was working on so I could get a sense of what abilities were important that he had, but also how they manifest themselves in this setting, and if there were any additional elements that Deathblade had added to it, because he has a lot of leeway to just make what he needs and all that stuff. And so the first thing I sort of realized was the Demon Emperor has to be quite powerful for a couple of reasons. Number one, in the final battle, he's fighting off multiple high chi rank characters, and for that to be the case, he needs to be a lot higher than chi rank 10. And so he also, in addition to that, he needs to be powerful because there needs to be a good reason why the Enlightened Goddess hasn't stepped in and done anything. I mean, she would obviously she takes a hands-off approach in the setting anyways, but at a certain point you would expect that he would have dealt with her servants or Supreme Judge Yu or somebody like that. So I didn't want the Demon Emperor to be more powerful than her, but I wanted him to be powerful enough that it would give her pause. And so I decided, okay, I looked at the book, and we actually provided stats for Supreme Judge Yu. He's actually made appearances in my campaigns. He's an important character because he sort of is the guardian of the boundaries between the realms. And so I decided to make him 2 chi ranks higher than Supreme Judge Yu. And that way, I figured, number one, Supreme Judge Yu himself would be reluctant to take him on. But the Enlightened Goddess probably would perceive him as a significant enough threat that she would allow his reign to go on for ages before she actually intervened. I think that her biggest concern would be, a Monkey King type situation. Just, the Demon Emperor has a lot of potential to be that kind of a character who goes into the heavenly bureaucracy and just completely disrupts things and ends up taking over. So especially if he's able to cultivate or get magic pills or who knows what he might be able to find if they get embroiled with him and he has reason to sort of seek to overpower them. So there was that concern too. So I ended up making him chi rank 42, which is pretty high in this game. I mean, theoretically it can keep going up higher, but that's quite high. That gives him max 83 wounds. So you have to do 83 wounds to him. Most characters, do not have more than 12 wounds, 13 wounds. So he's pretty strong. And his skill ranks are all, not limited by the cap. He has a number of extraordinary powers, and he also has regeneration abilities, immunities. Now, again, anytime you stat somebody, that means they can be killed, but I think that's fair. That's the Demon Emperor wasn't invulnerable. He was somebody who was just really tough to kill, but the correct strategy is employed, the correct whatever, he could be defeated in a variety of ways. Now, he has, again, his regeneration ability and his immunities make it very difficult to do that permanently, but even so, he can be defeated. And so, and this is, I think, a stat block that GMs will maybe need access to, because given that the setting has time travel as a feature of it, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that player characters would go back in time and end up fighting the Demon Emperor. I had characters who went back in time, and there was a moment where I think they were contemplating going to see the Demon Emperor. I don't think that they never did, but I remember at that moment I was like, oh, I don't have any stats for the Demon Emperor. I didn't think people would go see him. It's a sort of boneheaded thing to overlook, but I just, just always sort of this fixture in the setting that I didn't really think I needed stats for. Sort of buried in the ancient history of the setting, and he, lives in this mighty palace and is surrounded by, numerous, guards and wards, and so I just didn't really think about it. But so I've been sort of just spending this afternoon making stats for the Demon Emperor. Again, I have to run them by Deathblade. I might have to change things. I mean, he might say, "Oh no, and he can't be Chi rank 42 for some reason." And we've reached the point in the development of the Legends of Ogre Gate story where now I take my lead from him rather than the other way around. So in the past, I would sort of review the chapters and kind of give some input and point out where things might need to be brought in line with the setting or whatever. But as things developed, it's shifted because the background material is now so substantial, and gets into territory that's pretty much unexplored in the books, that now I need to go to Deathblade in order to verify if something can be the case or not, if it's in any way connected with that period of time. So with this one, I know what I'm gonna do, but if Deathblade tells me otherwise, I might make some changes. And so I'm trying to keep it simple too. Like, I want him to have a lot of powers, but I don't want a big giant list. So right now a lot of the powers that he has come from his entries in the Sartorius. I'm thinking of just, listing them, but I'm also toying with the idea of expanding on the list and describing each one. I just need to think of how feasible that is, because he has a lot of powers, and so that's a little bit of an effort to sort of paraphrase each one. But I don't want people to have to go get the Sartorius book just to understand what the powers do. So I might just put really shorthand descriptors of the damage, at least, or something, just so you have enough to run it. And then, if they want to expand on it more, they can go to the Sartorius book. And also there's going to be some new rituals, new equipment. I think that's about it. So, I'm going to try to keep this a fairly succinct entry. I don't want it to get unwieldy. I want it to be something that's useful to GMs when they need it. And again, one thing that I do hope to do in the future is I hope to do a Sects of the Martial World book with Sunan and Bao and all of the historical sects in the setting. I think that would be pretty cool. At some point too, I think it wouldn't be, I mean, this is way off, but at some point I think a source book for that period of time would be pretty cool. But we'll see. We have a lot on our plate this year, so I don't know if that's going to get done or not. But yeah, so you can look forward to this when Deathblade puts up his chapters. I'm going to put up the stat block for the Demon Emperor, and we should be good to go. So I will let you go now, and I will talk to you later.